get an adoption of the agenda? Councillor Danaka?
I make a motion to adopt the agenda to include the 3B1 under business arising TOCO, 5A under finance, number 3 treasurer's report, number 4 donation to the football team, and 7 for sponsor appreciation day with the golf course.
7-4. Any other additions? All those in favor? Carried. So we have a scheduled delegation, and Mrs. Surratt is requesting 30 minutes. Is there any problem with that? Welcome.
I'm not sure if these other people have, if they're public delegations, the other 2 people in the gallery.
Well, they'd be after scheduled. I think that's the way. Have we changed the order? Or is that a?
No.
Yeah. Should have almost had it first. So you don't really have a mic there, right? So
Yeah, I speak a little.
just speak loud. You can introduce yourself.
I've never heard you speak loud. Heard you speak loud. Good evening, Council. My name is Havan. I'm Havan Surat, Planning Manager with the Mackenzie Municipal Services Agency. And today I'm going to present the Town of High Prairie Municipal Development Plan that we are working with the town's Municipal Planning Commission, MPC, and a few of the councillors were involved in the process and gave us a good feedback and the development of the plan. So in today's presentation, briefly, I'm just going to tell the process that we have involved in the nature of the MDP, which is the Municipal Development Plan in relation with the Municipal Government Act, and the process of the development of the Municipal Development Plan and this town's MDP and the next steps of the plan. Why municipalities develop an MDP? Because it's a broad, long-range planning document, which is primarily used to provide a direction for the future development for the municipality, and it can be seen as a very like a hierarchy-wise. It is the top-level hierarchy in the Municipal Government Act, because from the policies that is derived and obtained in the Municipal Development Plan, many other plans, including even the municipality's land use bylaw, has been derived from an MDP. So you see the provincial land use policies are the primary one, which has to correlate and coordinate with the town's municipal development plan. And from the town's municipal development plan, any further future area structure plans, or even there might be some changes that need to be done in the town's land use bylaw. And even the area redevelopment plans also will be in relation to the the policies that have been set in direction with the municipal development plan. As per the existing MGA, which is right now, an MDP is compulsory required only for populations more than 3,500, but is always recommended even for the populations less than 3,500. But this is changing with the new MGA, as the council might aware, that is coming in next year fall, which no matter whatever is the population size, every municipality must have and adopt a municipal development plan, which which is like previously which every municipality should have a land use bylaw, which is making as a municipal development plan now. So usually what's included in MDP, this is like a presentation which I use in the beginning of my presentation when I start the project with the steering committee. I try to give them an idea what is included, what's not we are going to address in this plan. Usually this one came directly from the Municipal Government Act, and MDP must address future land use and the proposals of the future development and the coordination with adjacent municipalities and transportation and services and utilities. And it may also address some other aspects like economic development, heritage, conservation, and tourism, and other aspects that the town is interested in it. So the town's MDP process is usually been set up as the outline of the document is the background, vision, and the policies, the policy planning, and the draft MDP and the final MDP will go. And we have a steering committee, as I mentioned, for the project is the town's municipal planning commission is our steering committee. We had a number of project meetings. This project is started in exactly last year in terms of August of last year. It's been started with that. And every month or every 2 months we have a meeting and shown the progress of the meeting. We have done a community survey to get the feedback and opinion and aspirations from the residents. And 115 people, that means like 115 households or business owners, they have been participated in the survey, and they gave us feedback which have been used in the framing the policies of the section in the land use of the land use areas. And also a community survey report. A community survey report is also done that lies with the people's opinion that we've been received, and it has been added as an appendix to one of the appendix to the plan document. So Hyperarea MDP is basically like 5 parts. You see that like table of contents wise it's 5 parts, and it's an overview which gives a brief overview of again what's an MDP, where's an MGA, what other plans are already existing, already been there, and with the town's perspective, like area structure plan wise, whatever. What is the previous MDP, and in the town it talks about that. And the next portion is the direction, which tries to get a direction from the community survey report and from all the project meetings from the steering committee. We got a direction which will help us in framing the vision statement for the town in the direction portion of the section in a land document. And the next topic is the goals, objectives, and policies. These goals, objectives, and policies have been set up for each land use within the town. Like for residential land use, there are goals, objectives, and policies. For commercial land use, for industrial land use, and for urban reserves and parks, open space, and recreation land uses. So for every section of for every land use type in the town, there are goals and objectives and policies. And the next portion that's going to talk about after goals and objectives and policies is the implementation policies. And then the final piece is the appendices. We have 3 appendices. One is the glossary of the terms, and next is that we have done a lot of maps, which I mentioned in a while, and there are like few maps, and a lot of maps have been done. That will also go as one of the appendix. And the next one is the community survey report, which also added one of the appendix. Part 1 overview, we always mention what does the shall, will, or must be when we say about when town shall, town will, then we mention what's the action, course of action that needs to be taken. Basically, in the part 1, in the overview section, if you have seen the document, it comes with the data that is existing from the current data that we have collected from the Stats Canada, from the town's website, and other various sources. From the development applications of the town, and we produced a number of analytical figures, whether they are charts, bar diagrams, or pie diagrams, or all those data analysis we have done, which will help us in understanding the town's development climate. That you have seen in the first view, for example, this one it shows the the town's the population that's been doing since 1960. And this one is a pie diagram showing the types of development that we got from your development permits, and number of developments per district type is this chart. So each chart and figure has been analyzed from the raw data that we collected. So the next portion, part 2, is after the overview section is the direction section, and we developed these guiding principles, like 8 guiding principles we have been set up, and which are again we got from what people have said and what existing data it's been looked at it. So we got these 8 principles, and if I go over, the first one is embrace small town and promote commercial businesses, which is one of the major feedback from the public in the survey report that we got. So from what we heard from the public and what we have analyzed from it, it's been framed up and drafted into these guiding principles. So the next one is informed, engaged communities, encourage employment, encourage industrial, and provide affordable housing options, a diverse economy, and a livable community. From these guiding principles, then we got a community vision for the town, and the town of Hyderabad that the vision reads like, will continue to be a livable community by offering wide range of housing choices, business services, recreation amenities, and employment opportunities, and community facilities for improved quality of life. So part 3, the next part after the guiding principles, after the direction portion in the plan document is the goals, objectives, and policies. We have 11 policies areas. That means like we have residential, commercial, industrial, urban reserve, parks, open space and recreation, transportation, economic development, heritage. So there are like 11 policy areas, which for each area there are goals, separate goals, objectives, and policies. We have set policies for reserve lands, and we have also finally from this all the policies analysis, we also developed a future land use concept, which is a map, the first map in your appendix section. So the next part talks about the implementation in general, that land use bylaw amendments or any plan that can get annual work plan and updates to land use bylaw, and any special planning projects or planning studies that needs to be done. So basically talks about whether any plan or anything is it has to comply with the policies in the MDP. That's what it talks about, and how to implement those policies in future through these plans, studies, and land use bylaw for the town. So the last part of the plan document is appendices. There are 3 appendices. The first one is the glossary of terms, and the next one is the maps. In the maps, we created future land use map, and we have created ownership map, which gives the map of town-owned land, provincial-owned land, P1 settlements, and all those ownership map. The third one is the vacant lot. It shows about the available of vacant lots and land available in the town. And the fourth one is the transportation network, and the fifth one is the recreation and community facilities in the town, and the last one is the services map. So the next final appendix is the survey report. All the survey report that we got, we have submitted online from the public feedback. We have been derived into analytical figures and explained as a part of a report that we shared with in our project meetings with the steering committee, which has been added as one of the appendix to the plan document. So next steps. So now this is going just as a council's review stage, and council have any comments that they can give it to us, and we will then we will incorporate those changes, comments, or anything that will happen with those council interests. And then the next step will be after this will be, it goes, after these changes, it goes to the public review. But before that, it can also go, it has to go to the referral agencies, like it has to go to the Alberta Transportation, because the highway passes in between for the town. It has to go to the Alberta Environment and Parks, and the school boards, the existing school boards in the town, and also the neighboring municipalities, especially the Big Lakes County and town of Swan Hills, and maybe some of the First Nations that is close by within the Big Lakes County. So I will provide them with the council's permission with all this after the meeting. I'll provide them the draft copy as I did to all those referral agencies and give some certain amount of time and see if they have any comments and feedback. And then if they have anything, then I have to incorporate these changes and comments, and again the final draft will be sent it to the council again, and then it will go for all the 3 readings and public hearing. So I think that's all I have to talk about. If any council has any questions or any comments.
Mayor Cox.
Do you want our comments in writing, or how do you want to accept comments? Because I went through it and I did make notes, so.
Yeah, I mean, anything, if you have something like page number wise or anything, you can send it to Brian, and Brian can forward me, however,
Okay,
whichever way, please.
then, the only actual one that, because a lot of it is small items, but there was one item, and that was when you were talking about the, guiding principles. What page was that? Where you had, 8 of them?
Page 13.
13, yes. Principle 6. You've got the town values diversity in housing types and sizes to ensure that residents have access to a variety of options throughout their life cycle. But then you add in the town works to ensure its residents have access to quality public health services and education. I actually think those are 2 separate principles. One is education as a guiding principle to that we are wanting to ensure that education is a vital part of our community through the school boards and the college. And the other one is health. And certainly, we certainly, and through the new hospital, we are looking to have more services. So you would actually have 10 guiding principles. Okay?
Or I can combine this into the principle 6 in some way.
No, actually, I think housing, health, and education are, each one of those is a separate principle that we really work towards. So give it the importance that we feel it has. And I also note on page 9, where you have your dwelling types, you've got 230 other dwellings. What kind of other dwellings do we have?
I'm going to say manufactured, but I don't know, it's mentioned as a movable dwelling. I don't know whether the manufactured of the mobile
Yeah,
housing
70
units
there.
or in this other dwelling. I have to check the data.
Okay,
Compare,
it
but I
strikes
can
me
get
that
back to
other
you.
is quite a large category there.
Yeah. I mean, those may be, I know row houses is mentioned, semi-detached.
There wouldn't be basement suites in that,
No, 2011 census.
for them?
Yes.
There wouldn't be basement suites in that part?
No.
No?
Okay, anyhow, that would be a question that I had when I was looking through it.
Yeah. Yeah, this is the time all this can be sorted out, and definitely we will work on it. But I don't have any actual data, but I will get back to Brian or staff.
Get back. And on page 7, where you show the pie chart for types of development, 45% is other. Again, half of our development permits are other.
Yeah, and I have seen the Excel sheet. I don't have it right now, but those include many like I think the major ones are here, but the 40% are many things like sign. There are many small permits, that's been issued. Those
Decks.
which come with
Decks are here. So if you could give us an idea of what,
what the,
like, I mean, 45% again, that's over, almost half of our development permits are miscellaneous, basically. So are we not, maybe we don't have enough categories?
Or even breakdown on what the other is, on the chart, saying other.
okay, sure.
Okay. The other ones were just small items, so I'll email them
Okay.
to Brian.
Any other questions? Councillor Gilroy?
It's more of something for the council to be aware of. At the big meeting that all the municipalities went to that are part of Mackenzie Municipal, the board members that I went to as well, one thing that they were talking about was the conservation reserves. It's going to be something new in the MGA, and I'm sure that they actually did a presentation on it. They're going to look into it. I'm sure that's going to be added later, because that's very important for taxation and other purposes. So you will be giving us an update on that when it's all official, right?
Yeah, because that's still working. This the reservoir Councillor Gilroy was talking about is the current MGA, existing MGA talks about environmental reserve, but now new MGA is also talking in addition to environmental reserve like conservation reserve. So when I think MGA has everywhere they are having sessions that's been held, and when one of the sessions in Peace River when we went, and I had a chance to discuss further with the provincial planners and the board who came to the MGA sessions. Even most of them, they don't have a definite answer because still it's framing stage and all. So everything when I asked the question, still they ask us to write form and have a stick board and send us a link and email and all those things. So we don't have definite at this point, but we will see.
You will update us when it's official.
Yeah, when what.
Councillor Panasic?
Yeah, that was somewhat my question too. Like when I looked through, I didn't see anything that said, the town's going to set aside X amount of space for green space or conservation. It was left fairly broad, where I think it should be, specific. So when you're planning, people know that there's got to be, I'm not sure what the correct number is, but 20% green space in your community or something like that. Is that common? That's something that I thought should be in there, and I didn't see it.
That's what the municipal reserves are.
Yeah.
That's what the green area is, the municipal urban reserves.
Any big large development when it comes to like 10% is the maximum, I think,
Yeah.
if I'm right with the number, with the figure, that can be held as municipal reserve and which can be used part of the green spaces.
Yeah, I guess, but I want to, if we just look at, this one, what if we turn that into commercial or something, then that's gone. But, most communities, I think they have a sort of a set percentage. They got to have 15% green space. And right now we have the urban reserve, so I think we're lots, we can call that green space. But, if that gets developed, we should, in my opinion, and I don't know if that's normal, because I'm not a municipal developer, but I'd like to see a guideline that the town has to stay within 15% has to be green space, or something like that in our plan to help our people. That kind of specific data, I didn't see in there.
Usually those, it's not like the standards for the amount of green space is in relation to the number of dwellings and the population size, right? So how much population are using that X amount of open spaces? or that the size of the open space is overloaded, or it's too much for that surrounding populations in that standard. But it won't talk in MG or in anywhere that a municipality or a town has to have like X amount of percentage or anything. So you have like JC Park, you have those parks which have been set up and fairly used, and you have the other, in addition to those parks, you also have those school playgrounds which is quite well used by those town residents, so which has been used. So I mean, I can look into it, but usually when I scan so many documents in the province, no municipality will talk like of municipality of this size should have this percentage of open space, something like that. The calculations comes when any like big chunk of land is developed, so that the developer has to set this amount of percentage as a municipal reserve, and municipality has the authority to use it as a green space or anything, because that also municipal staff will recommend due to the availability of other green spaces in the town. So you know, if the municipality has very shortage of green space, then they use the 10% of the new development into complete green space, and they think they have a good amount of green space, they look into like 5% of green space, whatever.
Okay. It was just interesting hearing, the discussion on guiding principles. I'm curious how you came up with those guiding principles, because we have, one person's opinion on how to add something, and the other one that I thought might be added is environmentally friendly, or, that's something that we should be looking at. So I don't know how you set those, but I guess I'm curious, how did you pick these guiding principles, and how will they be set?
Those guiding principles are mostly came from those 115, those survey responses, public feedback.
Okay.
So where the people choices, we use that Survey Monkey, that's a website that I think you're familiar with for your budget survey. Like it gives it an option from this kind of a open-ended questions where people has to write something. So most of them say, suppose more commercial. Some people say more health amenities. So the software picks up those things and gives these are the bullet points that's seen from those things. So those guiding principles came from those open-ended questions, from what people are saying. So some people said more commercial, more environment, more health, and this one. The reason I did not put health is some people said health, but there's already town is getting a new hospital, so it should take care. So I did not put as a guiding principle. That's the only reason. And the other one. Another one is the education. Education, I have to look how much it came up from that tool, but I can add it as a one more principle. But I can add these two because town wants to see them as a guiding principle, definitely, then I can add it. But the reason for not putting these health services is I know people said about health, some people, not very much people, but again at the same time, town is getting a new hospital and it's providing good amount of service.
What about the environment, though? That's, the town wants to be environmentally friendly.
Environment friendly is something loosely or tightly tied to the principle 5, recreation and leisure, where people raise their voice against having this outdoor and indoor recreation. Right? People told about us having a trail, those kind of things that people talk.
I'm sorry, Mayor Cox.
No,
Yep.
But I just had one more to add, just so I'm clear. So the next step you need coming out of this is you need to have council to say you can put this out for review to the public and to those referrals to those agencies.
Yeah. I mean, if I add these comments and whatever those Mayor Cox comments and everything I add, then I'll send it to the town staff, and then I can release it to the public. Again, we can keep those PDFs in the town's web page and say the public in the town's Facebook for the public. It's available, and we can
So you need a motion at the end to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
After, oh yeah, you can say after.
Okay.
I think, like the mayor just was referring to Principle 8, which is the livable community when talking about the environment. And it talks about a clean, safe, healthy, beautiful community, those types of things. But it doesn't really answer the question of how do we embrace sound environmental practices for the growth of the community. And I'm not sure if that's where you're going, and by looking at green space, not necessarily just what we have set aside already, but as new businesses come and as we develop and as we grow further, we should have an identified green space, preferably a belt. I would like to see that would create a walkable ring and park space for the community to go from one point to the next. As it is now, they have to sort of wander through the streets to get to a park or whatever. But it really, there isn't anything really there that speaks to environmental concerns, but I don't know if we've ever discussed, even as a council, what would be an appropriate input to create a principle of environmental practices. I don't know.
I mean, because the term environment is a very broader term. I mean, it can range from, like sustainable environments or environmental practices. A town has a lot of it's from the point of view how the public perceive the environment. When they say perceive the environment, is to perceive the open space. How the public make use of the existing natural environment in the town. Right? There are many aspects of it. And we touched about it and in a different aspect. So like we have done it open spaces and trails, I think in the section we talked a little bit about some of those like parks, open spaces and recreational uses is something that we said something. I mean, it's not that we haven't touched it. And we said that the existing parks, we said the goal is to create an well-planned open space and recreation cultural facility. And to answer the second portion point in the goal is town will maintain and expand a pedestrian pathway system in order to link all areas of hyper area and pedestrian oriented community.
Yeah.
So there is something in line that is reverberating on this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. Yeah.
So I gather we then, because you've got the municipal development plan, it's got the guiding principles, and you've identified goals. We would take the goals and then we would move to a strategic plan as to how to implement the goals? Is that the process as to, now you've got goals, you've got objectives?
Yeah, from the goals we got the objectives and we got the policies. And we will see from loosely or tightly from the policies, we can see how we will address. I mean, what is the next step after the municipal, what is the town's response after adopting a municipal development plan, is whether some of the policies can be implemented, right? That's how we should see. And sometimes that's why we can come up with some of the action items list from the policies, what can town do in order to achieve that particular section goals or policies.
Okay, so let's go to green space where he's saying we'd like a green belt around the town. That's not in the policy, but should it be in the policy in order to start to implement it? Or would you say the policy just says that green spaces are important to the town and we should work towards having as much as possible? Then the actual work of doing that becomes a strategic objective, or?
I mean, it's both ways. It doesn't only from the policy section, it can go into a strategic approach, because even from the goal it can go. I mean, usually the goals, so even for the goals, Like you have suppose from this particular point when we have this kind of a goal, there will be some kind of policy that tries to talk about that kind of a goal, or from the goal what the objectives have been derived, and from the objectives what the policies are derived. So from this goal which I mentioned as a pedestrian this thing, and you have a policy saying we'll have a town will wants to create or endeavor to create and maintain a trail mapping system. So
There's the strategic action.
action item. So
The
that's
action item.
Yeah. So there is a connection between the goal and then the objective and the policy. So usually the policies the language of the policies will directly use into like an action items and an action item.
All right. What happens if there aren't some of the items that we want as policies in this plan? Should we be bringing that forward, or?
Yeah. I mean, this is the time. If you want to, it's not anything set in anything, any kind of any store. If you have anything, if you can want to bring any additional policies, this is the time.
All right. So we're doing a strategic planning on September 24th. Would that be a item that we would discuss there, or is that too broad, or is that out of scope?
I don't think it would affect the municipal development plan, the goals and strategies that we're going to be doing.
But they should be reflected here, shouldn't they?
They will be at the time that if there is a development within an area, that if it's not Mackenzie, they'll go back to our municipal development plan and ensure that the trails are looped in there within the development of an area.
Okay, but that's only for an individual developer. What happens in the broader scope of the whole town's development? The whole working towards, well, for example, let's pick one of these. Parks, open spaces, and recreation uses. So you've got a goal. We're going to create an integrated, accessible, and well-planned system of open space. And we're going to maintain and expand a pedestrian pathway. That's the goals. The objective is to incorporate these into an open space system, provide recreational cultural facilities that meet the needs, and ensure that the community's open space requirements are met through appropriate reserve. That's in the whole objective of the whole town. So any decisions we make should have these objectives in mind, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now, when you look at the policies, are those actions that we should be looking at?
Yeah, that's right.
So now the policy is, the town requires all parks and playgrounds to be landscaped in accordance with its intended use. And we encourage xeriscaping and naturalization techniques. So, also we encourage playground and tot lots. But I don't see anything here that says, as a policy, we want a green belt around the town. So should we be putting that in as one of the policies? The town works towards creating a green belt?
And what I've seen is when the policy number 8, it doesn't directly talk about having a green belt, but having and maintaining a trail mapping system.
But is that what we want to do, is actually look to see, does this policy talk about the things that we want to move towards? Or would we adopt the plan and then in our budgeting process say, look, it says here that our goal is to create more open green space. Let's put dollars in to get a green belt.
Yeah. I mean, usually what is, this is still in draft stages, and you said you are having the strategic this month. So you have to see at that time, right? And I mean, it's always encouraged you have a draft copy right now, but it's good that you can look at even the draft copy and see whether you can get those things in your strategic action items in your strategic plan. But if some question comes, why after 1 year somebody says pick up, why why this policy is there, but your why in your strategy is not there. But you can always say at that time this is still in draft stage, and by the time you have the strategy meeting, you will look at what is adopted. Right? You will go back to what is existing, what the plan, the previous plan that you have. So it's not it, but it is always encouraged to see, because you want that one to reflect to this one, you know, and you already have a very good draft copy in hand. So you can always look on these elements to be listed in your items.
Okay.
Councillor Long.
The more concise the MDP is, the easier it is for us to take the information from the NDP or the MDP and incorporate it into the 3-year plan, the 5-year, the 10-year plan, and from there incorporate into the budget. And that turns this document into an action plan. But if it's not concise and if it's not clear and if there's things that are missing, then you end up with a cemetery here, a cemetery there, a cemetery there, and a cemetery over here, as we have now. And so that was a result of planning gone awry, maybe. And so if we're going to incorporate trail programs or anything else, we need to have it really concise in the MDP in order to put it into action in the 3-year, 5-year, 10-year capital plans, and then ultimately in finance and budgeting. Correct? So if we want something that is dedicated more and clearly for environmental practices or environmental stewardship or whatever, then it really needs to be clear and concise in the MDP. Does that make sense to everybody? To me? So we should have that in there. And so if we have the questions, then we'll make sure we get it to you. But again, it's a draft. At the end of the day, it comes back to us and we have to turn it around, vote and say yes or no to this, that, or the other.
So what are we going to be voting on tonight?
Tonight is just need the council approval to incorporate these changes that I got, and then give it to the referral agency.
So you'll only give it to the referral agencies after you've added any considerations this evening?
Yeah, those guiding principles and those guiding principles and the other.
Yeah, I have a few
Yeah,
changes.
the changes.
Are we comfortable with that? Does everybody have any more questions? You guys are good? Okay. Mr. Martinson.
I don't believe it needs a motion of council because it's still in the draft stages. So all you have to do is forward the comments to myself and I can forward it on to Van. So we don't need a motion on it. So.
Councillor Gilroy.
I personally would like to see with all the changes before it gets released to the public or to the other partners. So with all the changes in it, I'd like to just, if you can just email it to us so we can just quickly look through it and at least know how the changes have filtered in. I'd appreciate that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Did you have anything further? Thank you very much. Public delegations. Do we have any public delegations?
Public and what that
We give 5 minutes of time to anybody who wants to come.
This is fine.
Sure.
My name is Wayne Kanelski. I'm a power of attorney of one of your taxpayers. Hi, Lynn.
There's a little button on there. Yeah. Thank you. Hi, Wayne.
And basically I've received the bill from the town for cutting her lawn for a reason I have no understanding. It was the letter, we didn't cut grass on time, so she sent us a letter indicating have it cut by July 29th or we'll cut it. My contractor came July 29th to cut it. The town was already there with the contractor doing the work. That's number one. Number two, when I got the bill, instead of the $130 my contractor charges, it was recommended from Century 21. The town's contractor sent a bill for $892. Considerable difference. Now, my mother simply does not have the revenue to pay that. I'm already supporting her as it is, so this is a disaster for her. So I'm asking the town, can I pay $130 for the work that's all it's worth, and eat the rest?
Mr. Martinson?
I was aware of what happened with the property. The estate was sent a letter, and I think Mr. Bloom said you have up to a certain date.
July 29th, yeah.
To
Have
cut it?
done by July 29th, that's correct.
And when he come back off being off for a couple of days, he went and checked it. It wasn't cut, so he hired an independent person to cut and remove the grass and weeds.
That's correct, but except for the one problem, I had the July 29th day available to me to do it. The town jumped the gun by one day. That's the way I understood it. Anyway, I told the contractor, get it done by July 29th, and it's no problem. So he showed up at 11 o'clock, July 29th, to do the work, and somebody else is already doing it. So that's just one problem. The second problem is the amount of money that the second contractor is charging. It's a considerable difference. Like $130, that's what Hagen is doing it for, and the town contractor with similar equipment is charging, what, 7.5 times more? There's something wrong there. I know $800 isn't a lot of money to a counselor, but it is for my mother. So whatever, throw it back at me.
Did you have anything else, Brian?
I just know that in the letter, it said you have up to a certain date and time to have the grass cut.
I don't have the bill with me. Kevin Kanelski was supposed to bring it in today, but it said, if it's not done by July 29th. Now, to me, that means I have till July 29th to perform the work. Am I ignorant? I don't know the English
Well, it
language?
sounds like there's a communication breakdown as to what
And then I
what you have on
forwarded
which
that
day.
on to my contractor saying, make sure it's done by July 29th. Now, what does that mean? Now, there's one other little issue here that pisses me off, pardon the language, is back about 10 years ago, my mother, instead of giving money out to the grandkids, donated everything to the town. So if you want to just return that donation, I'll gladly pay her $892. But be a little gentle on this old lady. She's 93, severe dementia. She's been cheated by her other son and by another fellow in High Prairie, and she's bankrupt. She's literally living month to month, and if I don't help her, she gets behind. That's the scenario. It's not like she's rolling in the dough. And finally, a third issue, how about I sell you some real good land for a decent price? And you can cut your own grass. It's a nice chunk. It's just that there's enough there to build a landing strip on that street.
Well, thanks for bringing it to our attention,
you.
and
Okay.
we'll
You'll get back to me?
we'll have administration get back to
Okay.
you on that.
Thank you very much for your time.
Okay, thanks very much. Any other public delegations? 3A, minutes of August 23rd, regular council meeting. Oh, sorry, jumped right over protective services, sorry. Come on over, protective services. Page 4. Welcome, Mr. Melnick.
Good evening, Council.
Councillor Gilroy.
I move that council receive the fire chief's June, July, and August 2016 report for information.
Does anybody have any questions?
Councillor Danaka.
I just have two. Are you still at a full complement of firefighters, or are you dwindling again?
We're dwindling again, so it's slowly going down. We had 33, now we're down to 26, I believe it is. So, we're just in the process of getting back on the recruitment campaign and trying to recruit again. And speaking to other fire departments in the province, I think that's just an ongoing thing. It's just the way it is. Your volunteers come and go, and we get new ones join, and they show up for 3 or 4 practices, and then they figure out, well, this isn't what I want, and so unfortunately, that's life.
And my second question is, have you begun your green light program, and how is that working?
We have started the green light program. I have issued just about half of the green lights out now. The rest of the guys probably get them next Monday at the meeting. So far, it seems to be going good, except for our signing. I had signs made up. First of all, I was in contact with Marianne or Melanie, whatever. I can't remember her name, but out of Peace River with Alberta Transportation. And I asked her about putting up signs, and she said, yeah, go ahead. As long as they're within town limits, you can put up signs. So I had the town staff go and put the signs up. And lo and behold, just last week, well, beginning of this week, I guess, Rodney Johnson comes in and he tells us we have to take these signs down because they're on transportation property. Now, Rodney has been a little bit of a in the past, and like he's just nothing but problems all the time. And I've been trying to get a hold of this woman. I tried yesterday and I tried again today, and I haven't been able to get a hold of her. So hopefully tomorrow I can get a hold of her and see why I was given permission to put them up, and now we have to take them down. So it's just ludicrous. So seems like one hand doesn't know what the other hand is doing, and so that's for our green light program. If we have to, I guess we'll take the signs down and put them up elsewhere in town, and just keep them off the main highway. Unfortunately, but other than that, it's going good. So far, nobody's abused it.
How are the sales going for your Hillbilly Dance? It's coming up.
Slow.
Slow?
A lot of people say they're going to be going, but I think probably next week, the last week, we'll probably end up selling quite a few more. But hopefully it goes over well. I think it should be a fun event, and it's just a way to have the fire department get together with the public and just have a good time. So hopefully everything turns out well.
Councillor Gilroy.
Just asking for a point of privilege here, simply because Chief Melnick's not here for the entire meeting. I just wanted, if he could just give us a little bit on his proposal for the Alberta Emergency Management Agency, because he's going there. He's offering us to go, and it's part of the fire department and prepared. So I just wonder if he could just, is that right the way? Just give us a little bit of the importance of it and why you chose to go doing stuff like that.
The thing about this is it's just a 72-hour preparedness. Is just a course, I guess you could call it, or that Alberta Emergency Management puts on, and it's just to get the public aware of what they should be doing in case of an emergency, just to get the public prepared. Like in a case of Fort McMurray and Slave Lake a couple years ago, when it was time to evacuate, they had to go now. They couldn't, I mean, they didn't have an hour, they didn't have 2 hours to pack. I mean, when it was time to leave, it was time to leave. And so the importance is to have a 72-hour pack ready to go so that if an emergency does come around, you just grab your pack and you go. And you have everything you should need there to keep you alive for 72 hours. So, this is just a way to, I think, Alberta Emergency Management is going to be putting on a seminar, and I think it's a train-the-trainer type thing. So hopefully when I get back, I'll get some information from them and train a few people. And by all means, if anyone wants to come with me, I'll be more than happy to have company. So, got to get up before breakfast, so because we got to be in Grand Prairie by 8 o'clock. So.
Anybody have other questions? Councillor Panasic.
You had lots of rollovers in the last little while. It seems like more than usual when I look at them.
Yeah.
But it sort of led me to one question that ties a little bit into the budget, but I just wanted to ask you a little bit about it. In the budget under income, there's a fire agreement with the MD. So when we get called out to, you know, those rollovers that are out of town, and then we charge those back, that's some of the money that comes in from that. Is that accurate? Okay.
Yeah. So any motor vehicle accident we attend on the highway, if it's on a numbered highway, we could bill Alberta Transportation for it. If it's off the highway and in the county, or well, in the county, I guess, we have to bill the insurance company, because Alberta Transportation will only cover stuff on the numbered highways. And that is just a way for us to recoup some of our costs.
Yeah. When I look, you know, and this is not necessarily related to your report, but there's, you know, in 2014, there was 134,000. Last year was 118,000. So that's a significant amount of income that comes from going to those.
It is,
Yeah.
And that's one thing, we never know how much we're going to make, because I don't know how many accidents we're going to have. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's just, the more the better, but the unfortunate part is people have to
That's
suffer
not the
to
way
do that.
look at it. No, yeah, we don't want that money. Yeah.
Yeah, so,
What he's alluding to.
that's right, yeah.
Well, yeah.
So, no.
Well, I just know, and the other thing was it wasn't budgeted for in 2016 any amounts. So I was just wondering, you know, there's a big, there's $100,000 we could probably count on next year, right? Or
yeah.
roughly.
Just the other day, I billed out, it's on the report here, 19,182. So that was for June, July, and August. And June, July, and August was very slow. Like, we didn't have very many calls. So that's pretty good, $20,000 for 3 months. So.
It's good income.
Yeah.
No, we're not gonna go cause accidents.
Yeah, no, I don't want those. That's income I'd rather not have, absolutely.
Any other questions? Mayor Cox.
The privatization of the fire department in Onaway, I think it's Onaway, is it?
Yeah.
Do you have any feedback on that yet?
I haven't heard a thing about that. I don't know how that's going. I didn't make it to the Fire Chiefs Conference in June, so that was going to be talked at the conference, and I didn't go because it just turned out to be too expensive. So I haven't heard how things are going there.
Can you check around and
I could do that. Yeah.
maybe the next time you come, I'll ask again.
Actually, we have a North Peace Fire Chiefs meeting in Peace River tomorrow, so maybe I can ask around tomorrow, and somebody might know.
Okay. And for the revenue, I show other revenue vehicle accidents, 35,000 in the budget. I see a budget amount, I don't see zero. So,
Well, I'm just looking at the year-to-date budget was 0, and
Okay.
that's what I've got on here. We can compare those
Yeah.
numbers out. That's not really related. We can do that at budget time.
Okay, that was my only question, was whether, what the feedback was on the ongoing.
And as you can see, we were doing some more work on our training facility. We're building a confined spaces building out there, and Jimmy Perry was good enough to donate 4 lifts of OSB to us. And Brian and his son David were good enough to take the loader out there a few weeks ago and load it up and haul it out to their training facility for us, because we had no way of getting it out of there other than moving it one sheet at a time by hand. And then we needed a bunch of it cut up into pieces for building the training facility, and Brian was gracious enough to, rather than us moving a saw out there and a generator to fire and all that, Brian brought it to town, cut it up for us, and brought it back out there. And so, kudos to Brian.
I just want to also say thank you, Ken, because they're going to be bringing out the fire department's barbecue on Saturday for the airport's fly-in breakfast. So thank you very much for that.
Okay, you're welcome.
Mayor Cox?
The training facility, the fire training facility, do we ever rent that facility out to other municipalities, or I'm thinking First Nations or settlements? Are they aware that we have a really good training facility for them?
They are aware, but we're still in the process. We have a few more things like this confined spaces thing we're building right now. We have a flashover chamber that we're working on, we're building. And when that's all done, then we have to get it accredited by the fire commissioner's office and get it passed. And then we'll be able to, once it's passed, then we can rent it out and start renting it out and hopefully collecting some revenue.
And would we have instructors also, or how would the instructor portion work?
For some of the courses, we have our own instructors, and then for some of the courses, we would have to bring instructors in.
Okay. So. But it sounds like it might be a well-used facility.
Hopefully, eventually, yeah. So.
You've done some joint training before, though, eh? Like with Swan Hills and other.
Pardon me?
Have you guys done some joint training, like with other agencies that have come here to
we have with Swan Hills. The last one we had was the MD of Smoky, and that didn't turn out very well. What happened there was the fire chief they had at the time came in, wanted to rent our facility, and he came in, he used up all our burning material, he made a mess out there. He wanted to use one car for training. He ended up using all of our vehicles, so we had, I think there was 5 vehicles out there. He burnt all 5 of them rather than just one of them. And 2 days later, he moved to Ontario. So I approached CAO at the MD of Smoky, and she basically said, well, sucks to be you. You didn't get anything signed. So there we are. We're
Councillor Gilroy.
On that note, before we rent it out, I would recommend that we look at the liability, who pays for that.
Now it will be, yeah.
So
we will
that
be for
we
sure.
are covered in case.
That's just something that I didn't expect. Like, I mean, a neighboring fire department and the fire chief just 2 days after moving out of town. I don't know. I just didn't expect it to happen. So.
Any other questions?
Is that something like once burnt, twice?
Yeah. Something like that, yeah.
Do you have anything else for us, Ken?
That's all I've got.
No.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor of accepting his report? Carried. Now the minutes of the August 23rd regular council meeting on page 14. Do I have a motion? Councillor Courtly.
Council approve the minutes from the August 23rd, 2016 regular meeting of council as presented.
Any comments? Additions, deletions, mistakes? All those in favor? Carried. Business arising. Toco, number 1. I have a motion on the addendum. Mayor Cox.
That council received the request to prepare a list of questions and concerns to be brought to the Toco FMA meeting, and to receive that request to approve council to attend Toco FMA meeting being hosted on Thursday, September 15, 2016, with honorarium.
Anybody have comments?
It's to approve council members to attend. Or councilors, one or the other.
Did you get that changed, Nancy?
No.
To approve council members. She read the motion as it's typed, but she added
That was
council
the-
members.
The third one?
Third one, yeah,
That was supposed to be just to receive for information.
but it doesn't say that.
No, that's my fault. The middle one was for approving members.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're saying 1 and 2?
We'll go number 3 is to prepare the list. We have to discuss the Toco meeting and decide what it is we're going to be saying at the meeting. And then any members that wish to come to that meeting are approved to attend the meeting.
That's almost
Right.
1 and 2
And
there,
it's
if
1
you
and 2
look,
put
if you,
together.
it's
Yeah, that's why
this
I said
and,
3. Isn't 3?
No.
3 was supposed to
3
be-
is supposed to
Three
be
is the
for
other.
Three was supposed to
information.
be for information purposes only.
It doesn't say.
That doesn't really say it clearly.
yeah,
So we can interpret it how we want.
yeah, I agree. But basically, we need to get the list of questions and then we're approving council to attend. That's the bottom line.
So 1 and 2.
So we're not trying to receive it for information.
I got it.
You got it? Okay, does anybody have any comments, questions on? Councillor Daneka.
So are we getting together before the meeting, or are we sending questions to Brian? Is that the plan? And then,
I'll just everything. And list the questions to everybody. So everybody knows what the questions are.
So if anybody has questions, you want them sent to you?
Not to me, yeah.
Councillor Panasic.
I think it's not just questions that we want to talk about, it's what our concerns are and our strategies when we meet, like we've talked about that we're supporting this. However, we want to make sure that if possible, there's a limitation on if they're not going to do anything in a time frame that this FMA might get pulled back from them. Those were the key things that we wanted. I believe that's what our council has said over and over. So it's not really a question. But I guess the question might be, can we revoke this if they don't do anything?
Well, for the purpose of the meeting, it's just that what our thoughts are on the table, right? Like I said, they're not going to be, we're not approving anything at this meeting. This is just
Right.
for information. Mayor Cox?
The meeting is set up as a roundtable workshop. Jeff Chalafu is chairing the meeting, and he is the Economic Development Officer from Whitefish Lake First Nations. The envision that we've kind of talked about as between Jeff and Whitefish and Ken Matthews, who was in Ontario, so he wasn't really involved, was that each of the communities that are coming in would have a chance through their chair or their representative to say, this is how, to Toco and to the rest of the community, our community supports this renewal of the FMA, but, for example, High Prairie could say, our community supports the FMA, but we would like to see Toco have more interaction with Northern Lakes College and provide more training opportunities to the students and the adults in our community at your plant. That's, but we do support you, it's just that this is one of our concerns. And then you would see other communities stepping up and saying, for example, Whitefish. Our community supports the renewal of the FMA, but we want to ensure that our people get a lot of jobs out of the logging that you're doing. And how are you going to address this? So, and Tolko was at this meeting, so they can take these concerns, those that they can address immediately, fine, but at least they will have each community's concern, question, or whatever. And so it's more of a dialogue, more so than a resolution of what's going to happen. It's a chance for all of us to hear what are some of the concerns from the surrounding areas, because other than the fact that Whitefish, I know what their concerns are because I've talked to them, I really don't know what Swan Hills or Swan River is thinking. I don't know what Sturgeon Lake for sure is thinking, because we never interact with Sturgeon Lake First Nations. So I think that was the opportunity. This is what this is about for all of us who are impacted from Tolko, to actually hear what the other ones are saying.
Councillor Danaka?
I just have a question. Out of all of those letters that were sent out for response, how many are actually coming? Two?
I've referred back to
Who are the two?
two communities.
Who are they?
Sucker Creek and
Whitefish.
In
No.
Hicks County,
and Big Lakes. Well, Big Lakes.
4 communities will be there.
and you have to realize that a lot of the communities may not reply. They'll just show up. I mean, it's like pulling teeth to get them to actually respond, and yet they will come and they expect.
No lunch for them.
There's no lunch anyways, and I'm not even sure if there's any coffee.
There's some wood chips.
Because we're having it at Peavine, and are they providing coffee? Is coffee available?
Nancy's looked after that.
Oh, because the kitchen is closed at Peavine, so.
Wood chips and a water burger. There you go.
Any other comments? Councillor Gilroy?
Realizing that this is the first of 2 steps before the end of the month to do with the input from our town to the deputy minister or to the minister. Will we then, after this meeting, bring it up next meeting on who would go if they need extra representation down in Edmonton for a potential meeting with the deputy minister?
And I'm wondering if that isn't a part of this consultation, or I don't want to call it a consultation, because I've already said it is not a consultation. It's more of a workshop. And should that maybe be a discussion of the participants of the workshop to say, the town has set the meeting up. We have time allocated to us. Who in this area, who in these people that are here want to go to that meeting and represent the group, and here's what we would like you to say. I think that's more of a discussion that the participants should have rather than us.
But then it would be approved any representation from our town next meeting.
Yes.
Maybe just before. the
It should
actual meeting.
be, it should come back here and say, okay, this is what's happening.
Okay. All those in favor? Carried. Did you want to, you're good with your motion, right? You don't need it back?
I am. So any questions or concerns, go to Brian. Just send them to Brian. You got 2 days. 2 days?
Yes.
1 day. Tomorrow.
2 o'clock. What time is it? 2 o'clock Thursday.
Be great to get some background stuff too.
So really all you need to do is just get a list of the questions and fan it out to whoever comes. They can just bring it, and at our table, we can have a spokesperson or whatever and go with it there. I'm thinking that's basically.
I'm just wondering if the meeting's officially at 2.
Thank you.
I was wondering if any representatives of the town council are going, should maybe be there earlier so we can then look at all that Brian's done and talk about it as a team, to have one, maybe a half hour early or something like that at 1:30 instead of 2, so we can talk.
Mayor Cox?
I actually think that's a great idea, but let's do it at 1 o'clock and let's meet here. Because people will be filtering in there and it's gonna be sidetracked. So if we meet at 1, whoever's going to the meeting, then we can go down there and know what we're talking about.
Okay, 5A, finance. Financial report. Page 22. Welcome, Ms. Sweet. Apparently. Didn't want to listen to the financial report.
It's about to get really boring. With Terry there. Terry's
We still
never
got
bored.
Chris, but no. Okay, do we get a?
Waiting for the next one.
Can I get a motion? Councillor Danaka.
The council received the August 2016 Treasurer's Report as presented for information.
We're on the financial report. It's the financial report, not the treasurer's report.
What?
Financial report, not the treasurer's report.
Here it says, but this is 3.
Yeah, it's the financial report, as you know.
Yeah, the financial
Oh,
report.
as emailed, my apologies.
And it's July.
Okay,
Welcome, Carrie.
sorry.
Hello. Just to clarify before we get into it, the fire department revenues that were mentioned earlier, I think there's a slight mistake in your line. You're looking at the fire agreement from the MD was 134,000, 118,000, and nothing was budgeted. The vehicle accident revenue was the line above that, and it's a lot lower.
Oh, no.
And there is a budget amount. On page 7.
So, sorry.
Councillor Panasic.
So just looking at that item, the fire agreement, the MD, that second line down, there was the 134, 118, and then it shows nothing. What is that for?
That's the fire agreement with the MD. There was nothing budgeted. I wasn't here for the agreement, so I have no idea. And I, of course, didn't do the budget, so I don't know it either. But I just know that when you were speaking a while ago about the MVAs,
Okay.
that's the line above. And the line above, there is a budget already in for the MVAs.
Oh, okay.
And it's not 118 last year, it was only 67 last year.
Right, 50, and then, okay.
Yeah, it was just you were one line off, that's all.
Well, I did not understand where that was coming from. What's the fire agreement with the MD then, where we're getting 134 and 118, and why we don't have anything this year?
It used to be in the intermunicipal, and I haven't looked at the new intermunicipal to see what it is, but I know that it used to be only reconciled at the 6-month and at the final year-end type of thing, and there was nothing budgeted for it, so I can't say why I wasn't here.
Maybe we can have our chief explain that. Do you know?
Well, I think that's probably the money that we get from the MD for half or 50% of our firefighting budget. And that's billed out twice a year, right? Or is it once a year? I believe it's twice a year.
It's twice a year, but they've had a new treasurer at the county.
Right.
And which reminds me, I did make an appointment with him, and we are meeting on Thursday morning, and we're going to go over everything in the intermunicipal on Thursday. So some of these questions I could probably answer better at your next meeting, because
Yeah,
I'm
well-
meeting with him. He's new, and his contract is only for 1 year. He's temporary, but still a whole year for a temporary. So
Yeah, for me, I mean, at the year-to-date budget, if there was a budget amount in there, in the budget, it should be 7/12 of it at this point in time, so there should be, you know, as the year-to-date should be something showing.
No, it
The
dep-
actuals would be different, but
But-
the year-to-date would be 7/12, so
Not
whatever the budget
necessarily,
is.
not necessarily, it depends. Some things are only paid out twice a year or once a year, like, for example, the amortization, so the budget should only show it in December. It shouldn't show a 12th, a 2/12, 7/12. It's only shown at the end of the year. If you look at the budget, on the budget that was given out to you beforehand, the fire agreement with the MD, it was budgeted $175,992.83. But in the program, the Uniware program, the previous treasurer must have put it only at the end of the year, which is why it's showing 0 right now. But there is going to be, before the end of the year, the full amount.
It might be, for when we're looking at these budget, it might be nice to have the 2015 budget amount and then the 2016 year-to-date.
I could do that, but then you would drop the 2014 actual. It cannot fit another, the program would not allow another column. So I would have to drop the 2014 actuals. But if you wish to do that, I can definitely do that.
Because it is confusing. I was thinking there should be 7/12 of the budget there, because that shows up in most of these other columns, right?
Like I said, I didn't do the budget, so I
know,
can't say.
That's the way I was reading it. Okay.
Mayor Fox, did you have a comment?
No.
You're good. Anybody have any other questions on?
I do have a couple more comments. A couple of councillors did bring up to me about the water and sewer, the fact that on page 16 and 18, the revenues for both the water and the sewer are a lot lower than anticipated. And we will be going through that more in the strategic planning workshop because it's something that may have to be addressed and changed. I know you guys just made some changes, but I don't know if all the information was there when you guys made that decision. So we'll be discussing it in the strategic planning. Unless, and there was, just for your information, I did pull some information. The water sales are approximately $110,000 a month, and the sewer sales are approximately $35,000 a month, is what we're doing right now.
How much are we gonna be short then on the sewer?
The full budget for the sewer. Okay, total budget for the sewer, frontage, service charge. The budget said $653,000. And at $35,000 a month, that'll be only about almost $400,000. So you'll be about $250,000 short in the sewer.
So you're short $250 in the sewer and $200 in the water.
That's projected right now, yes.
Okay.
I can give more detailed analysis at the end of at your next meeting, but just a preliminary. When this was asked to me this afternoon, I just did a quick preliminary, and that's what I came up with. The biggest difference, just so you're aware, that we've been able to come up with is the fact that the fixed charge changed and the percentage changed. So the price and cost went up to the residential, and it was supposed to be offset by the commercials going down slightly, but it was a huge drop in the total amount of liters that went through the system for the commercials, and so it was a huge drop for them, and that was most of our revenue. So.
Councillor Canasi.
Yeah, you know, I had this chat was it today or yesterday with you? I can't-
Yesterday.
Yesterday.
Somebody else approached me today.
Oh, okay. But I just wanted to ask council if they remember, because when we redid the water, my impression is that the rates were going to go up for both residential and a little bit for commercial, both water and sewer at the end of the day, and that was going to raise our income enough to make this cost recovery. So I was quite surprised to see us below where we wanted to be. But is my memory correct on what?
Mayor Cox.
Well, actually, your memory was sort of correct, but it gives me no pleasure whatsoever to say that I brought this scenario up at this council meeting, and I asked the treasurer and the CAO to give us the top 10 commercial water users so that we could gauge the impact of what this was going to do. And the CAO and the treasurer refused to release that information, and there were councillors here that supported them. But this was the scenario that I was very, very worried about. And now we're sitting here with this $500,000 shortfall. So this is exactly what I was worried was going to happen, because those commercial users are so high in usage. But we were assured, no, Linda, you're making a mountain out of a molehill. You don't need that information. We can handle it. We know what's going on. And they didn't have a clue, and they left us in this lurch here now. And I'm aghast. I really am, like, I don't know. And only thing I have to say is, thank God Peter Key has found a good $100,000 for us in the chemical sales, trying to find a better vendor, because at least he has through his initiative has helped us a little bit on this. But our whole idea of trying to bring our tax rate down, or at least stay steady, is going to be horrible this year. I talked to the treasurer to ask for a projection of how bad this is going to be by year end, and she will have that at the next council meeting.
I have spoken to my utility clerk, and we've already discussed how we're going to do that. And for these two accounts, well, the three accounts including gas, but I think that one's perfectly fine. We're going to go by the amount of liters that were used for the water and the sewer that went through the system last year. Use those amount of liters for last year and the year before as a average for the month, for the 12 months for this year. And then we'll use that multiplied by the rate that we're using, and that'll give us a good number. But that's going to take us a few hours to do that, which is why I couldn't do it for today.
Any other questions for the treasurer? Okay, then we'll vote on that motion. All those in favor? Carried. Thanks, Terry. And now, finance religious exemption request, page 23. Do I have a motion on? Okay. Councillor Nanaka.
The council received the request for religious property tax exemption from Windward Ministries for information only.
Comments? Councillor Gilroy.
Well, I looked up the, just so that I was sure of everything that had been noted there. And the key thing for me is section 362, number 362K, says property held by a religious body and used chiefly for divine service, public worship, or religious education, and any parcel of land that is held by the religious body and used only as a parking area in connection with those purposes. And I did that because I wanted to, being also a minister, I want to show impartiality, because our church owns two properties in this town. One is a church that's used exclusively for church public worship, and the other is a house, a parsonage. And I've been talking to a number of people, and we all agree that I could hold services in there, I could do Bible studies, I could do all the rest, and we were joking about this earlier, but the primary purpose of that building is my residence. So therefore, we pay tax on it in this town. So I think the key to the whole thing here is ownership of the facility. That's the way I look at it. And just the other one is that I know that there was a note put in there that any property could be taxed, but what was referred to in number 2 part, except for properties described in subsection 1, and this is of the same section 362, that dealt, from what I can see, specifically with one part of it and not the entire one. So religious properties were not able to be taxed as long as they are used primarily for religious purposes and owned or by the particular church or religious body. That's according to
Owned or held?
held, basically.
It can be taxed by council if council so wishes. Most properties can be. Those 3 that are referred to as the exceptions, one is municipal property. I don't have the MGA in front of me, but there's only 3 exceptions that cannot be taxed no matter what. The others, it's always the option of council. Most councils, of course, will let churches and schools not be taxed, but they can if council so wishes.
Councillor Danaka.
Personally, I don't think we have enough information on this. They're saying that they are the name change, their legal name. I'm not sure if they are an accredited church. As well, in the Alberta Regulations, Community Organization Property Tax Exemption Regulation, I believe we had the same issue unless they're separate between churches and or societies, that the CRC had requested exemption for their taxes for that 1 year. But according to this Community Organization Property Tax Exemption Regulation, conditions for exemption, 16(1)(a). The nonprofit organization makes an application for an exemption to the municipality by September 30th of the year preceding the taxation year and supplies the municipality with the following by November 30th of the year preceding the taxation year. Any information the municipality requires to determine if the organization meets the conditions, description, facility on the property, funds, property, the requirements of subsection. So, in reading this, if I'm interpreting this correct, they have to apply for a year ahead to the next taxation year. So they would still have to pay taxes for this year. Is that correct?
Partially. If you apply for an exemption as a nonprofit organization, you do that the year before.
Right.
And then it gets assessed that way, and it's totally exempted. If they don't apply for the exemption, they get taxed, and then it is up to council. Council can still waive the fee, but it's not exempt per se. It'll still get taxed as a normal way, but council can go back and still say, we will waive the fee for you for this year. And again, you can't go back 2 years. You can only go back to 1 year. But so it could be either or.
Any other comments? Councillor Panasic.
Do we have any idea why they wouldn't have applied for an exemption with the government? Would they qualify for that exemption? Does anybody know?
The exemption, it doesn't go through the government, it comes through council.
Oh, it's a council that decides?
Correct.
Whether they're exempt? Oh, I thought they had to meet this with the government as being a bona fide church.
We're talking here about nonprofits. Sorry, are you going back to the churches?
I'm going back to the
Oh,
churches.
sorry, she was talking about the nonprofits. According to churches, they have to have proper documentation supplied by the federal government or the province in regards to the fact that they are a charitable organization and their taxes exempt, et cetera, et cetera. That is one of the documents that our assessor requires when he puts it down as a religious body. However, council can say, this is a religious body, please exempt them.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that. I guess I'm wondering, why haven't they applied for official exemption, so it doesn't even come to council? Do you know?
I couldn't say for sure, but my guess would be that they are not one of the typical recognized churches. That would be my guess. I couldn't say for sure.
And we never got a copy of their lease, right? We just says that it's that they have an agreement or they have a lease and that they're supposed to pay the taxes, but we don't have a copy of that, right?
We don't usually typically get a copy of the lease.
So
We will still tax the owners no matter what, and then the owner can give the bill to the renter and get the renter to pay for it if that's what they wish. But we don't really care if it's for the property, for the taxes that we issue on the property, we go directly to the owner. It doesn't matter, but see what was happening in the past, a lot of organizations were renting out commercial buildings to these organizations, and then telling us, oh, they're exempt, they're a school, or they're exempt, they're a church. And okay, fine, so then we put down as exempt. They move out 2 years later. We aren't told. 5 years later, we find out, oh, they moved out? Why didn't anybody tell us? And so the commercial owner of the property has not paid taxes for 3 years because we still had them in our system as exempt.
So they don't just have to apply each year for that exemption?
No, it's ongoing until such time as we ask them to reverse it, which is why the charitable organization one is a good fit, because then it'll come to council every year. We'll know every year if they're still renting, where they're at, etc. And like I said, this applies to both the churches and the religious groups, and with also the schools and the school systems that are not the typical Catholic or separate schools. So we would only have 1 year. We would know right away.
Yeah, I like the idea of 1 year at a time, because for that exact reason, and especially when you're looking at $27 million worth of real estate that is now considered churches, and if that can just be a growing
And the school
number.
one is even higher.
Yeah, I was just looking at the and portion that was in here. The and was have administration bring forth another bylaw regarding tax exemptions for religious designations. I'd just like to hear Brian's thoughts on if we need that and why.
Basically, I wasn't sure if council wanted us to go ahead and bring forward a draft bylaw just in regards to the religious organizations, or if they wanted us to do all the exemptions, including all the schools, because there's also a lot of school properties that fall into this category that should be a charitable organization and not under the recognized schools. And so we'll do the bylaw whichever way council prefers. If you want us to do one just for religious designations, or if you want us to do this for all tax exemptions. Whichever.
Mr. Martinson?
Administration had looked at it as if you're renting, you don't own, somebody's making a profit off of the property anyways. So in regards to the church, they're renting, the property owner is still making a profit off of it, should be able to afford to pay the taxes in administration's eyes. So that's why we looked at the bylaw to bring back.
Well, I know, and there's been situations where government was renting a specific building in the community, and the exact same rent was charged to an organization later that became a church, and then they applied for a tax exemption, but there was no reduction in the rent, even though there was a tax exemption granted. So who's pocketing the difference? Is it actually going to the place of worship, or is it just going to the private owner when we're talking about leases instead of owned buildings, right?
So I'm just wondering if we should put the and into the motion, Councillor Danaka, just so that we have the two parts.
I would prefer two separate motions, one for the first top one and one for the bottom part.
Okay. So we've got the top one done.
So are we ready to vote on the first motion?
Could you read the motion back, please?
That council received the request For religious
Can you
prop-
use your mic?
Sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. That council received the request for the religious property tax exemption from Windward Ministries for information only.
Good. All those in favor? Do we have another motion? Councillor Danak.
The council instruct administration to bring forward a draft bylaw regarding all tax exemptions for owned and or rental properties.
Comments? All those in favor? Oh, opposed, sorry. And a break. I'm just gonna finish the treasurer stuff. There's 2 more for treasurer. Oh, you're sticking around?
I'll stick around either way, so if you want to.
Okay, we'll take a 10-minute recess.